Welcome to This Explainer. If you're a parent, a caregiver, or just someone who really cares about the next generation, you already know that raising kids today feels totally different than it did a few decades ago. It's a complex and, honestly, sometimes overwhelming journey. We so often find ourselves caught up in this constant humming pressure cooker of modern life, making sure the homework is finished, schedules are meticulously kept, and dinner is on the table before bedtime. But the source material we're unpacking today asks us to just hit pause on all of that. It asks us to deeply contemplate the true nature of what we are actually doing. Behind the exhausting checklist of daily chores, are we truly preparing the next generation for what realistically lies ahead? It really boils down to this. How will your child thrive? It's a heavy question, isn't it? It goes right to the heart of those underlying anxieties we all feel when we look at how incredibly fast the world is fundamentally altering around us. We desperately want them to succeed, to find happiness, and to confidently navigate these complex challenges. But that traditional roadmap we grew up with, the one that said if you study hard, get good grades, and secure a safe job, you'll be totally fine, that is blurring completely beyond recognition. The rules of the game are changing faster than we can even explain them. So let's jump into part one, redefining the parenting role. Okay, let's dive into this. To really grasp the insights from our source text, we first have to completely question the inherited, everyday view of child rearing. We've got to move away from the outdated idea of parenting as merely a duty or a set of daily tasks. You know exactly the feeling I'm talking about. Checking off the boxes, managing the endless daily logistics, just trying to survive and get through the week. Instead, the text challenges us to elevate our mindset. It frames parenting as a profound responsibility to ensure the child thrives. This is a massive paradigm shift. It means stepping back from simply managing a child's day-to-day existence and actively taking on the truly monumental responsibility of preparing them for a highly specific, highly unpredictable future. And why is this shift in our mindset so critical right now? Because we must prepare them for their future world, not the world you are currently living in. Think about it. The reality you understand today, the economic structures you grew up in, the societal norms you're accustomed to, and the career paths that were considered safe and stable, those are already shifting beneath our feet. We are seeing artificial intelligence completely restructure entire industries in a matter of months. We're seeing the rise of a decentralized, globalized economy. We simply cannot prepare a child for a static, predictable world that just will not exist by the time they reach adulthood. Which leads us directly to our next point, the flaw in schooling. So if parenting needs a fundamental paradigm shift, what about our institutions? Well, the source text drops this incredible, provocative realization about traditional education. All of the knowledge imparted in schools and colleges are past information, right? Let that sink in for a moment. Everything bound in a modern textbook, every historical date perfectly memorized for a standardized test, every established theory currently being taught is ultimately a reflection of what has already happened, not what is coming next. By the time a curriculum is actually developed, approved by a board, published, and finally taught, that information is fundamentally anchored in the past. And this brilliantly illustrates the immediate friction we face. Technology and science evolve rapidly. Because the world is transforming at a breakneck speed, the static knowledge traditionally taught in classrooms becomes dated almost the minute it's printed. Imagine spending a whole semester learning the exact button layout of a specific software, only to graduate and find that software has been completely replaced by an AI tool that operates entirely on voice commands. The sheer pace of scientific and technological evolution easily outstrips the ability of traditional educational systems to keep up. So the crucial point is this blunt conclusion drawn by our source material. Schools and colleges do not prepare the child for the future. In this explainer, I really want to emphasize how stark this realization is meant to be. It's designed to agitate our complacency, because if the massive trusted institutions we've traditionally relied upon to future-proof our children are inherently falling short by only teaching past information, where does that leave the responsibility? Well, it places the mantle squarely back on us, on the parents. It means we literally cannot outsource the future-proofing of our kids. Moving on to the solution, fostering essential life skills. This brings us to a major pivot. If traditional schooling leaves this massive gap, fostering essential life skills becomes our primary mission. But it comes down to this fundamental, genuinely empowering principle. Only the child can do it for themselves. Parents enable them. As parents, we cannot step into the job interview for them. We can't navigate their future personal crises for them, and we definitely can't do the actual work of living their future.
It is so incredibly tempting to try and step in and fix their problems to save time, isn't it? But our true role is to successfully enable them. Enabling means giving them the tools, the space, and yes, sometimes the absolute permission to fail so they can figure out how to navigate that vast unknown totally independently.
But preparing them isn't just about values. The source material makes a very deliberate distinction here. While teaching a strong moral compass, things like honesty, kindness, and integrity, is undoubtedly important, the absolute critical necessity for surviving a radically changing world is essential life skills. Values dictate how a person behaves morally, sure. But essential life skills like extreme adaptability, critical thinking, complex problem solving, and emotional resilience, these are what actually give a young adult the capacity to function, pivot, and ultimately thrive in a chaotic environment.
So why are these essential life skills so elusive? The text breaks it down perfectly into 3 characteristics, and it is really worth taking a moment to understand each one. First, as we just established, they are not taught in school properly. Schools are built to teach to the test, and you just cannot easily test adaptability. Second, they are not tangible. You can't hold resilience in your hand, and you can't measure grit with a ruler, which makes it incredibly hard to know if you're actually doing a good job as a parent. And third, the impact is visible only over time. You are essentially planting seeds in a garden where you won't see any sprouts for years. Imparting these skills requires immense, unwavering patience. And this reinforces exactly why stepping back and focusing on being an enabler is such a demanding but absolutely crucial role.
And that brings us to our final concept, the Yancha intervention. This brings us to the culmination of all these complex ideas we've been talking about, the Yancha intervention. The text defines this as a thoughtfully explored approach, bringing together the elements needed to enable a child's essential life skills. Basically, it represents the active synthesis of this entirely new parenting paradigm we've been unpacking. The source strongly encourages us as readers and as caregivers to move beyond just understanding these concepts in theory. We need to explore this intervention and use it thoughtfully as an active, daily tool to bridge that massive gap that traditional schooling leaves behind. To wrap up, I want to leave you with this incredibly powerful, lingering thought directly from the text. We must step up to enable these essential life skills because life does not have a compass or a syllabus. It is a beautifully stark reminder. There is literally no step-by-step curriculum for the unpredictable, chaotic challenges of tomorrow. So as you process the information in this explainer today, and as you step away from merely managing those everyday tasks, ask yourself this: what is the very first thing you will do today to start truly enabling your child for the unknown world that awaits them?